Hello and welcome to SummerWorks Career Sneak Peek series featuring Shaun Manning. We're delighted to have you join us. My name is Amanda DeLongchamp and I work at Amy Cell Talent, and I'll be facilitating today's session. Joining me today on behalf of SummerWorks is Dallas. Thanks so much, Dallas, for all of your hard work and support of SummerWorks. And thank you to the audience for taking the time out of your day to explore various career paths, trajectories, and stories. Perhaps this will lead you to consider a career path that you didn't before, or solidify the path that you're already interested in. With that, I would like to introduce our featured speaker, Shaun Manning. Shaun will be speaking about the creative industries. He will share the identifying values, developing skills, and continuing learning, and how there are a number of paths to get where you are going. Shaun will discuss the arc of his life as a storyteller, including a long career in publishing, a freelance life writing about things he enjoys, a full-time writing position, and finally opening his own bookshop.
Thanks so much, Amanda. My name is Shaun Manning. I use he, him pronouns, and I am, as Amanda mentioned, I am a writer, and as of last Friday, the owner of Booksweet, the new community bookstore in Ann Arbor. So what's been fascinating to me in my career as a writer and doing writing related things is how many more resources there are now than when I was coming up. You know, I've been doing these sorts of things for around 20 years. And it's been really heartening to see the way that some things have changed and, you know, made the sorts of creative work that we all love to do so much more accessible and open to a broader audience. So some of the things I'm talking about, you may know more about than I do, but I'm hoping to frame them and how you can use them to help achieve your goals, no matter what they might be. So about me, as I mentioned, I am the owner of Booksweet. I was previously working in sales and marketing for University of Michigan Press, which is the book publishing arm of the university. And more recently than that, I was a writer for the School of Education, which is kind of a funny story. I started at the School of Education in February 21, achieving a lifelong dream of being a full-time writer. And then 4 months later, I left to do the bookstore. Your career path can be unexpected, and you can be ready to seize whatever opportunities may come up. But I've also been a writer for University of Michigan Arts and Culture News, and that was a freelance position, paid by article. And I was a staff writer for Comic Book Resources, an industry-leading website about comics during its award-winning years. And I've written for Sci-Fi Wire and more. And finally, I've written my own comics and graphic novels. A common theme that you might see, I've been able to do a lot of things that I really like. At the press, I was working in publishing, so I was not specifically a writer there, but I was working with books, and I was learning about how books are produced and the sorts of things that go into making a book happen. So it was all related, and it all kind of fit together really nicely. So I guess to start with, I want to hear about where you are and what you're looking to do. First poll is, how do you improve your creative skills or learn new ones? Do you use YouTube tutorials? Are you using Skillshare? There we are. Are you doing things that's, more formally at school? Are you taking classes or after school clubs? Are you following different folks on social media? I'd just be curious to hear where you are and what you're using. Okay. A lot of folks working in school. Yeah, social media is great. I love following artists online and learning from them and seeing the tutorials. Things like Twitch, Twitch streaming can be great for learning, and also as an artist for showing off your own process. Okay, I think, yeah, the results are about what I would expect. Yeah, it's interesting to me that like formal classes are not being used at all, but that's possibly makes sense with in the age when you can get so much for free and on your own schedule. Oops. Yeah. You can stop sharing. Okay. So for myself, when I started out, basically the only opportunity I had to do anything that wasn't like a job as a teenager was selling my old comics and collectible cards on eBay. My almost 12-year-old is already doing art commissions. They sell portraits and different things to family, friends, and just people who come across their art and like it. So, you may already have found ways to monetize your talents if that's something that you want to do. Can you make a living? There's always the yes, but there's a number of different paths to. Oops. But it's not all about you, and you shouldn't try to compare yourself to other folks doing similar things because you don't know their situation. You don't know what they're coming in with. You don't know the time that they're able to put in, the access that they have. And also, creative work does tend to be very undervalued. If you are trying to get your work out there already, you may have come up to, against folks who will be like, oh, can you draw this for me? It's like, what? You want money for it? You want how much money for it? Don't you want to just do this for the exposure? So you'll run up against that, and that can really, drive down the cost of, the value to you. It might not even be worth your time to take on certain work. Some outlets that I've written for had been like really good to me for a while, and then they were bought out and became kind of content farms that were just paying really, really poorly for really kind of similar amount of effort. So that is one thing to consider, that you need to price yourself correctly and be okay with people not always being fine with that. Find the people who will value your work. I'm not going to say never work for free, but if you are going to work for free, be clear to yourself what you're getting out of that. If it is, a project that you want to align yourself with, or it's somebody that you want to work with. My first writing gig was not paid, but it helped develop me, but it was for a fairly prominent site at the time, and helped me build a portfolio that helped me get paid work in not very much time. There are also things that have nothing to do with your creativity and your creative work. There are things like, privilege and personal circumstances and just life decisions. I am a cisgender, heterosexual, white male. I carry a lot of privilege in a number of my identities, and it would be wrong of me not to acknowledge that played a role in me being where I am today. There are also things like, do you have a partner? Are they supportive of your work? What are their needs? That is your life, and your life is important. And you need to think about, that may have an effect on the amount of time that you're able to devote to your creative work, where you're doing your creative work. And it's not like bad. It's not like, be single or you'll have these commitments that you can't deal with. But my partner has been, incredibly supportive throughout my life, and I've done a number of things that I would not have been able to do without her. But family resources comes into that as well. If you need to make money to live, you may have less time and energy for your creative practice. If your artwork is not able to sustain you regularly at present, then you may find that it's being deprioritized. But still make the work. Still find the time to do the thing, because that will help you in some other areas that I will get to in a minute. But yeah, not only if you need to make money to live, but as I was saying, if you have others relying on you, this can also affect your need to balance making an income, or with family commitments, and a number of other factors with making art. So what are your options if your art is not paying the rent right now? Or what if you don't want to have art be your full-time job? A lot of people don't. A lot of people say, I don't want to engage in the activities that would be required of me to make a living at this, because there's a whole different skill set that has nothing to do with being creative that is required to make a living doing creative work. Things like marketing and showing up to present your work in different places and things like that. So I think the thing to remember is that your skills are valuable. Even if you're not in an outwardly creative position, or if the work that is paying the bills isn't what you absolutely want to be doing, a writer can sell their ability to write, artists can visualize and so forth. During the last recession, I was not having full-time work, but I was able to make some money, doing writing for various outlets, and that was really helpful. And thing to remember, if you are looking for other sorts of work, not all employers will recognize how your skills apply to them, but you can spell that out in your resume. If you are a music producer, you can talk about the different ways that you can make presentations for different sorts of companies, and that will depend on where you're applying and what your particular skills are. But spell it out. Let folks know what you can bring to the table. And a brief note about social media. So much has changed. So much will continue to change. When I was coming up, the advice was like, oh, don't post pictures of yourself like drinking or having fun, things like that. As an employer and as someone who looks for artists and other folks to work with, I'm not really concerned with how you have fun, but I will say that I am looking for what sort of person you are and whether you're somebody that I want to work with. And if you are good at social media, I am, again, not all employers will recognize what that means or how that applies to them, but you can spell that out. And we're in a really interesting time as far as social media activism as well. To which I will say, posting activism will likely cost you jobs, but so will not posting activism. Because it's like, again, folks are looking for what kind of person you are, what you're interested in, what matters to you, especially as a creative person. You don't need to have a hot take on everything that happens. But if you are, someone who is making art about the world and you're not engaging with that world, to me, I'm going to wonder, it's like, where do you stand? Who are you? What interests you? What matters to you? So I would say, if you lose work because of the things that you care about, that's okay. And I just, wanted to talk about the open paths, that may be available to you as well, that may not always be clear, not always be interested. When I graduated, I was trying really hard to just like get writing jobs, right? And I didn't. But I was fortunate enough to work in publishing, one of my first jobs with the Art Institute of Chicago, one of the best museums in the world. I was an assistant in their publishing division. And that really helped me get a sense of how books were made and learn about something that was interesting to me. I don't have an art background, but it's something that I've always been interested in. So that was really, fascinating. And so from the Art Institute, I went to University of Michigan Press. I got more industry knowledge. And then again, so now I'm opening a bookstore, which is new but related. I haven't worked retail in a really long time, so that's a whole new set of skills. But I do know books. I know who to talk to get books. I know authors. I know what people are reading. So that's worked out really well. And I'm going to say that I remain a writer as well. And I do have, friends that are, that are making it happen. And I have a good friend who, works as a book designer for one of the major comics publishers, and she also illustrates posters. She illustrates books. I know another who, has a background in three-dimensional media, and he is now creating sets for one of the major stop motion animation studios. So it's, it's, as I was mentioning before, musicians can write scores and do other sorts of sound design. Actors can present. I did study acting a bit. I was not great at it, but it has helped, get me in front of people and talking to people like this. And so just really think about what your skills may allow you to do, and what is interesting to you. So poll number 2, we've talked about, creating, selling the work that you've created. Have you already done this? Do you know, do you already, have you already started? Is it something that you want to do? All right, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So a few of you are saying no, you do want to, you do want this creative work, but you don't want it to be, you're not interested in selling it, and that's totally fine. I mean, as I said, there's, everyone's coming at art, everyone's coming at creative work from a different angle. And for those who do want to, I would say you'll get there. There's nothing stopping you creating art. And there's any number of avenues now to make that available to the world. Oops. Yeah. So I think what I always want you to take away from this is, if you want to make art, make art. There are so many different publishing tools and just art tools, and there's so much more that's out there and available now that I'm sure that you may already know about or may be able to find. And if you feel like you're not progressing at the pace that you would like to, if you feel that other people are getting a bigger following or doing so much more, or why can't I be like that, there's nothing that will stop you, that will hold you back faster than comparing yourself to other people. Because like I said, you don't know their situation, you don't know what they're going through. There may be things that are holding you back that are not your fault, that are not anything to do with your skill or your talent or the way that you're developing. But if you find the time, if you can make that art, develop those skills, you can find work in doing things that you enjoy, doing things that you like, and creating things for yourself. Like as we said, a lot of you don't even want to sell your art, and that's fine, that's great. No one's making you sell it. But you can still build on those talents and find the people that you want to work with, find organizations that will value your talents, or individuals who will value your talents and want to work with you. There are ways to monetize if that's what you want. And just remember that creative work is work. This is your time. This is your effort. This is your skill. You're bringing something that people want. So value that appropriately. Talk about money. It's for a long time been considered rude to talk about money and value, but that's how we promote. That's how we put power back in the hands of people who are working and creating things. Is talk about what you're making, what your rates are, what different companies or organizations are paying, so that you can appropriately price your own work and lift other folks who may be underpricing themselves. That is all that I have for you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are questions or comments in the chat. You can reach out to me on email or at Faster Than Shaun on Instagram and Twitter. If you need books, I hope you'll come by the bookshop and shop booksweet.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shaun. So at this time, we do not have questions or comments in the chat. However, we do encourage all of our attendees to comment or ask questions. Oh, so Shaun, actually, right after we distributed that last poll, I prompted, what kind of creative art do you make? Feel free to respond. And one of our attendees writes songs.
Oh, that's excellent.
Very cool. Where's your bookshop located?
Where is it located? It is in Ann Arbor on the north side, in the Plymouth Courtyard shops. We are in the location where Bookbound was until recently, if you're familiar with that shop. We're right by Cardamom, No Tie, and Saika, and the cocoa bubble tea, if you are into bubble tea, which everyone is. So yeah, I hope to see you around the shop.
I think I need to give bubble tea another shot because I found it a little off-putting the one time I tried it in college. And then for those who may not have noticed, the website for Booksweet is in the chat also. So it's shopbooksweet.com. But I never really considered myself to be a very creative person, Shaun, and I think that's partially because my best friend growing up was an incredible artist as far as specifically drawing and painting. And I was like, oh, I could never do that. And it wasn't until a recent speaker who's also involved in the arts and creative industry indicated, well, baking is an art or creative outlet. And I just baked my first pie from scratch. It was very exciting. And I did the true lattice, topping. So just to, I guess, put that out there to others that it's not limited to drawing, painting, or writing by any means. So one of our attendees wants to know more about your company, such as the culture and then the process into starting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it all came together very, very quickly. Yeah, our favorite bookshop, Bookbound, was announced that they were closing in May. And so my wife and I were like, oh, we've always wanted a bookshop. Can we do this? And so, we looked into it. We did a lot of spreadsheets, and yeah, we figured out that it's an exciting opportunity. And one of the things that we want to have, every independent bookshop has its own personality, and Ann Arbor is home to a number of incredible independent bookshops already. But for us, like what we really wanted to be is like this cozy, affirming environment, where you can come and talk about books and find something unexpected. And we're really interested in distributing or promoting authors and books from underrepresented communities, and just being like an incredibly welcoming and friendly space. We're a fairly small shop, but we're really trying to cater to a lot of the different needs, specific needs of the community, which is north side of Ann Arbor. And bringing personal interests into it. I'm like currently in the process of trying to work to expand our middle grade YA and graphic novel selections. I've made some headway on that. It is a work in progress, but we have the new volumes of Promised Neverland and Demon Slayer, and we're working on building up a bit more of that as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Shaun. So how would you describe the culture for those who work there, or maybe the space itself for those who are, coming in to shop for books?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the people who work there so far is myself, my wife, and one fantastic employee, Zoe. And yeah, we are very much book people that and we all bring a different perspective and interest. I come from publishing. My wife is marketing for the Stamp School of Art and Design. Zoe has a book retail background, so it's like different skills, very complementary to each other. But yeah, and one of the things that we're really trying to do, we had our big open house last night, which featured a story time for kids, or called the Book Party, in partnership with a local organization called Black Men Read. We had poetry by Yasmin Rukia, a Dearborn-based poet. And we had music by Kai-Fi, who is a local looping vocalist. And so we're just trying to be, we're looking to be fun, welcoming, affirming. And yeah, and we also, one of the things that we're excited about is we're doing, we're doing what we're calling reading lists, which are front room displays on kind of topics that are important to us. We have one on a display on racial justice. We have another on gender identity, because my wife and I, our child is non-binary, and so we did. We've read a lot of books. We've had a lot of discussions with people, and we've, for that especially, we've found a number of books that have been really, really helpful, that are really, really valuable, and we want to share those with our community. I think part of the culture and perspective of Booksweet is wanting to share books that we love with the community and hear what you're reading and what has been valuable to you. And yeah, talk about books.
I love that. That's awesome. Now, one of my favorite, well, I guess it was maybe more of a coffee shop, but do you have a place to sort of study for any local students or anything? That's what I was thinking of.
Do we have a place to study? Not a
I
dedicated.
understand it's more of it's a bookshop.
Yeah, but there is, we are in the courtyard shops. There's a courtyard, so you can hang out outside and have your bubble tea and your books.
Perfect. And then we had a +1 for expanding YA reading.
All right.
And then I presume is that young adult?
Yes.
YA?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for someone who did not know that.
Sure, you're sorry.
All right, well, I have a question for you. So,
Right.
did you always know that you wanted to pursue writing or even owning a bookshop someday?
Sure. Yeah, writing I'll say this. I growing up, I didn't really have a sense that writing was something that you could do as a life. I read, but my senior year of high school, I had an English class, and I read some books that I really enjoyed in that class, which was, to me anyway, unusual in high school. But at the end of the year, and this teacher was not my favorite teacher by any means. It's not like we didn't get along, but she wasn't like the teacher that gave me like warm feelings. But we were talking about reading and writing, and she said, you know, you can be a writer if you want. And it's just like, really? um, and so then I started writing stories. I At one point I wrote a novel to prove that I could, and oh, it was bad. It's I did try shopping it around, and I am so glad that it was never published. But you get better. You get better with time. So yeah, I've always loved books. I've always, for since high school at least, then knew that I wanted to write and be involved in storytelling. And storytelling has served me well in other roles that I've had. And yeah, my wife and I have talked about opening a bookstore for some time. I think we came up with the idea first about 15 years ago or so, but then we were thinking, I think we had imagined it would be further off, but with Bookbound closing, once we looked into everything, we came to the conclusion there's never going to be a better time. We just really have to seize this opportunity. And it was not without effort and some finagling and some messiness, but yeah, it came together. And the community open house last night was beautiful. People have been really receptive to what we're doing, and it's been really rewarding.
That's awesome. No, glad to hear that. And so I noticed that you have this resource to share. So I'm putting the link in the chat right now for everybody. And it
Sure.
is a LinkedIn article. Do you draw them to what it means to be a comic book writer? And it looks like you wrote that.
Yeah.
Is that right, Shaun?
Yes, yeah, I wrote this. This is an article that I was trying to write to kind of summarize different skills that I have. This was when I was looking for a new position, and I was finding it kind of difficult to summarize. It's like, oh, my resume is kind of all over the place, but here's specifically what you might not see there. And one thing I'll find is LinkedIn is good for some things. I've found creative folks and even creative industry employers tend to hate LinkedIn. I don't love it, but it's useful for some things. So have a LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be your focus, um, but yeah, I wrote this to kind of say, it's like, oh yeah, you're a comic writer, but I'm also doing, lettering, which is, involves some graphic design work, or layout, social media marketing. If you're doing, if you run a Kickstarter to fund your work, that's a whole set of skills, which I don't get into this piece, but there are resources available to, learn how to run a good Kickstarter. And I felt like that was out of scope for this article, but yeah, it's, yeah, just think about, I guess that's a good point to think about how to talk about your skills and what you bring. And yeah, if you need to write an article on LinkedIn to summarize what you're doing, then that is an avenue that's, again, open to you.
That's awesome. That's a good idea. So how do you go about creating or writing an article on LinkedIn? Is there just a little button to
Yeah,
write?
there's a
Or?
little button. There's like a post, which is, like a, like a Facebook update, but then there's like an article section that is something for longer. You can put, pictures, slideshows, different things in there. Yeah, like I said, I haven't used it a ton because it's kind of not where my focus is, but I did want to create that piece to summarize some of the different things that, that comics writers are engaged with.
Absolutely. And so back when you were earlier career and starting out as a writer, who would you say your biggest cheerleader or support was in that?
Oh, that was my wife, truly. Yeah, she's been great, through everything. Yeah, supporting me when, things, when projects that I'd been working really hard on sometimes went off the rails. And when, and just like up to now, opening this bookshop together. Um, she's been really great and supportive through everything. And, as well as our kiddo Raymond. They have been great. They're our kind of informal art director for the bookshop, making displays for us and putting sketches up throughout the store.
I love that. That's so sweet. Now, do you have any goals for Booksweet in the next, let's say, 5 years?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of it right now is really, finding our feet and making the selection our own and making the shop our own. And I think that we've made a lot of great progress on that. I think that as the store evolves, we will, have more to talk about as the selection of books is things that we brought in ourselves, rather than right now. Probably 75% of our inventory was purchased from the previous shop. And Bookbound, we love them, and the owners Peter and Megan Blackshear were incredibly supportive throughout the transition. And they were our shop. Their vision is very compatible with ours. We like the books that they bring in, but at the same time, we're starting to make it our own, and that process will continue. And we've also started to look at the sorts of events that we're going to be bringing in. We want them to be, fun and welcoming and affirming and really, representative of the community that we serve.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Now, welcoming any additional questions that our amazing attendees have in the chat and Q&A. What would you say your typical day looks like? I know it's kind of just started in this new journey, so maybe it's kind of crazy right now.
Yeah, that's really hard to say right now. I mean, the things that are consistent is, I'm helping customers, either they come in and they know exactly what they want, or they're browsing and they find something exciting, or they're asking if we have something, if we can special order it. We're talking about what they read, recommending things from our, staff picks, meet Booksweet selection, or things that I think that they would enjoy based on, what they're picking out. There's also a lot of, finding out what's coming soon. looking through a lot of publisher catalogs, reading advanced copies, which is so fun and exciting. And I did that a lot in my previous lives as a reviewer and entertainment journalist, and I'm pretty thrilled to be doing that again. And yeah, trying to get things in order, thinking about displays, thinking about what books go where, thinking about what's going to be interesting to people. I think is what I spend a lot of my energy on, is like what will people want, or what might people not know that they're going to love, and putting that front and center.
Now, what kind of personality do you think that people need, or maybe even skills or traits to pursue the creative field, or even entrepreneurship, and maybe not so much skills that you need or personality you need, but that can develop, or that will be helpful and supportive in the journey?
Right. I know a lot of different folks who do different kinds of art. My field, I would say my creative field right now is primarily comics. So I know a lot of different comics people. And I mean, the main thing is just to make things. If you want to make things, then make things. Find the time. Whether or not it's something that you want to sell, whether or not it's something that you want to, show to people or present out. If, just make the work, get better. If you find something that's interesting to you that you want to try, then try it. As to, as an entrepreneur, I don't know. It's kind of come upon me unexpectedly. I mean, I'm not like a super like businessman person, but like I'm not an MBA. I kind of come at it as, bringing my, personality and vision to the work. And then like, yeah, there's a lot of accounting. I have to do a lot of ordering and looking at spreadsheets and things. And those are, I mean, quite honestly, those are skills that I developed, in my other job in publishing. Those are not things that I learned or sought out. It was things that I kind of learned because the job that I had at the time demanded it, and it proved useful. So I would say, yeah, the more experiences you have, the better. And that goes for like creating work too. I mean, I worked briefly as a bouncer, which, if you know me, is hilarious. But I mean, so it's like, yeah, every experience is valuable. Creatively, professionally, like anything that you can draw upon to do the things that you want to do.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I like your take on the, I'm not a businessman, but but you don't
I'm
necessarily
just
need
running a
to be.
business.
Right. Now, do you have I don't know if it's okay to say, a favorite comic book character or anything?
Comics character, that's a good question. Yeah, I read pretty widely. Superheroes, slice of life things, a lot of different things. I really love the comic Saga, if you know that, by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Marco and Alana are just fantastic. And lately there's a comic, it just wrapped up. There's going to be a collected edition soonish that I'm excited to carry in the store. It's called Far Sector, and it's by the sci-fi author N.K. Jemisin and the artist Jamal Campbell. And that is, there's a character in DC called Green Lantern, which is basically like space police. But this is a new character modeled on Janelle Monáe, and kind of in an unmapped sector of space, where on a planet where for decades, for centuries, they have repressed emotions. And so it was a really, really interesting series. and a really interesting take on the concept. So I'll say that the new Green Lantern there, Joe Mullane, is one of my favorite characters.
Now, is that the Green Lantern that's by, is it Marvel or DC?
That's DC, yep.
DC, thank you. Okay. So it's that same one.
Yeah, it's a new character,
Okay.
but same
Oh.
power set, same, yep.
Very cool. Now, do you have a favorite author that you would like to share with the group?
Say Kazuo Ishiguro. He's a Japanese British author. His book Never Let Me Go is phenomenal, and it's one of the things I tell people: go into it knowing as little about it as you can. It's one of those. It's so good, and it's so much better if you don't know how things are building. There's a movie version which is also very good, but it also kind of gives the game away in a narrative voiceover in the opening scene. So read the book first. So, the movie is also very good, but read the book first for a better experience.
What was the name of that? I want to put that in the chat.
Sure, it's Never Let Me Go. Never
Let Me Go.
He also did one called Remains of the Day, which is an incredibly British book about, it's about the life of a butler whose employers had kind of chosen to back the wrong side in World War II. And so it's like his life after the family has kind of fallen to pieces. But yeah, he's really, really good. His most recent book is Clara and the Sun, and that is it's a really charming story about an artificial being living with a family. And it's really nice, pleasant sci-fi with something to say.
Fantastic. And so I'm putting the author's name into the chat too for everybody. It's correct me if I'm wrong, Shaun. Kazu Ishiguro.
Yeah, let me grab this. Let me grab the spelling of that real quick. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to grab it from my own website.
Perfect.
Give me 1 second. Let's see. Okay, yep, I've got it on our Meet Booksweet list. Never Let Me Go. Click author's name. And back to Zoom. Oh, I'm sharing my screen. All of you can see my embarrassing mistyping my own bookstore's website.
It was great
There you
showing
go.
off your website though. So thank you. And we actually had another couple of questions come in.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your preference, DC or Marvel?
Oh my God. I don't choose sides. I grew up much more with DC. I think I know their characters better, but you know, Marvel has, you know, especially in the last, you know, 10, 15 years or so, done some fantastic stuff. Oh, Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan is a fantastic character that's pretty recently created. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl was hilarious. It's about a girl with she has the powers of a girl and a squirrel. And it's really, really fun. The X-Men series are really good right now. They're not always, but yeah, I go back and forth on DC and Marvel. DC is actually doing some interesting stuff too now. They did a kind of line-wide event that's called Future State, and those are being collected now too, so you'll be able to buy them at Booksweet. That was kind of just a new creative leaping off point to do new and exciting things. And yeah, DC and Marvel, I think, are both really strong right now.
Awesome. No, and I can respect you not choosing sides. I know, so my brother always read it was like those giant books. They weren't even comic books, but it was kind of like you flip through and you understand the whole backstory and
Yeah.
tools of the character. And so we had a Batman book. So
Mhm.
I would love to read that. And then we'd watch the animated series. And but then, as all the movies were coming out, I'm still more of a Marvel as far as the
Mhm.
movies go. I like the humor that they add to it, but Wonder Woman had an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Um, and then another question that we have is, what characters do you share similar characteristics with?
Oh God. Um, Getting back to like Green Lantern stuff, growing up, there's a new Green Lantern introduced called Kyle Rayner. And he was he was an artist, and he was, unlike, Hal Jordan, who had been like a hero in his day job. He was like a test pilot. Kyle was kind of chosen randomly for the role, and was like kind of finding his way into it. But also, the Power Ring can construct anything that you can imagine. So like, an artist has a different approach to that than a test pilot. And so I would say I related a lot to Kyle. And it's funny, like once they brought Hal Jordan back, they didn't know what to do with Kyle for a really long time, and that was sad. But yeah, I say I relate to Kyle Rayner a lot, and also the Wally West version of The Flash, because again, when I was growing up, there was a writer who was doing it who basically wrote it as a romance comic. It was primarily about every issue started with, "My name is Wally West. I'm the Flash. I'm the fastest man alive." And so it got you into his head, but also with like this excitement and wonder of these powers that he had. And then it was primarily about his relationship with his girlfriend Linda, and his family that was like all these other people with super speed, and some of the former villains that he'd befriended. And it's just like, yeah, I feel like Wally.
I love that. No, and I appreciate your insight. And you're able to think of that pretty quickly too, which is fantastic.
I feel these characters.
Now, the field of creativity and I think writing is pretty broad. Do you have I don't know, what kind of opportunities would you say are in the field? Maybe some that our attendees would not otherwise think of, they're kind of secret or just not what you think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say it's, one of the things that you can do with, writing is applicable to many, but not all of the tasks involved with marketing. So you can kind of build that up. You still have to acquire other skills, but writing helps. Um, yeah, doing reviews, doing fan fiction. You're not always able to monetize that a lot of ways, but I know a number of authors have started that way, or just really enjoy doing fan fiction. And yeah, what are some other things that are less obvious? Yeah, I mean, like things like writing about the things that you love. Like if you're not, if you love books, write about books. If you love music, write about music, or yeah. Uh, what other careers? Yeah, there are a number of things depending on like what you're interested in and where your specific writing skills lie. But yeah, you can write about concerts. You can kind of build a following that way. There are a number of newsletter programs that you can use. Um, Platforms like, I don't know, it feels like Medium has kind of fallen out of favor, but things like that where if you just want to write, then write and build up your portfolio, and then when you see an opportunity to do something, you can jump on that. There's also, I know, it's something that I have wanted to get into, but have not had the time to devote to make myself good at, is sort of branching narrative stories. Um, which you can apply to things like writing mobile games, and yeah, things like that, things that are designed for mobile applications.
Now, thank you. Awesome. And
Question
no,
about
because
Ryan
right, there's a
Reynolds.
big variety. And it's like,
Yeah.
honestly, one of the things when you were talking about writing reviews, I was thinking
Mhm.
food critic would be,
Yeah,
I
you
think,
think
really
so
cool,
too?
but maybe
Yeah,
I think there's a lot we don't know about that role too. So I don't
yeah.
know. We had another question come in, and it's how do you market yourself as a creative individual?
Sure, sure. For myself, I'm online. My platform of choice for being online is Twitter. My Facebook is more personal, but there's some crossover. I have an Instagram, but I'm not especially good at it. So that's the other thing. You don't have to be everywhere. Um, TikTok, I created an account so that I could follow like book talk for my new job, but I think that TikTok is something I'd be very, very bad at. Basically, don't do something that you don't want to do. But beyond that, for comics, I would go to Comic Cons. I would either, be there as an exhibitor in Artist Alley, presenting my work, meeting with editors, meeting other comics pros. One of the things we didn't really talk about is networking. And that's because I don't really enjoy it as a term, but it's, you meet people, you talk with people, and you get to know people in your field, and then you're introduced to other people. It is networking, but I think of it more as just like enjoying people's company, meeting people, having fun. Like, don't look at these people for what they can bring you, you know, don't like place a value on them based on their position, because it's like you never know who can help you. So just enjoy the conversation, enjoy getting out, meeting people who are doing the same things that you're doing, or are doing related things. Yeah, I would say just get to know as many people as you can. And I know that that comes hard. I do enjoy that, but it doesn't necessarily come naturally, like introducing myself. So I guess the other advice would be find someone who is really outgoing and befriend them. Like I have a Comic Con friend, Pinguino, who is just incredibly outgoing. And so like she introduced me to everyone. We went to all the Comic Con parties, and now I know a lot of the people that she knows, and it's great. So if you're not good at introducing yourself, I'd say find someone who will introduce you.
I love that. I think that's a great tip, but I never would have considered that. Uh, we have another question that come in, and I think that we can all relate to this. It's how would you suggest overcoming creative slumps?
Yeah, it can be hard. I would say, give yourself permission to create garbage. Um, Not everything you make is going to be great, even when you feel like you're on fire. I was in a writing group one time. I brought two stories, one that I felt was like really, really early in development, and one that I thought was like publication ready. Folks were pretty warm to the one that was in process. Every single person hated the one that I thought was ready. And it's just like, it's like if one person, says like, I don't dig this at all, then it's like they're a jerk. You can usually ignore them. If like 9 other people are saying, no, this is trash, then that is feedback worth having. Um, but yeah, how do you overcome creative slumps? Yeah, give yourself permission to make things that aren't good. Practice something. And if you don't feel like, if you're on a day where you don't feel like you can put the mental and creative effort into the thing that you're like really most focused on, then don't work on that for that day. Watch YouTube videos, learn something new. There are a lot of things that go into creative work that aren't putting pen to paper, or whatever your medium is. It's you can research, you can learn. There are other things that you can do for those moments where you don't feel like you can do the thing where you really want to.
Wonderful. I love that advice. To give yourself permission to make things that are not good. Because, right, I think that'll just kind of happen every once in a while. Oh, and we had a +1 for that also. So that's fantastic. And now, how did you feel about Ryan Reynolds being both a Green Lantern and 2 versions of Deadpool?
I think Ryan Reynolds is hilarious as a person. Well, I mean, let's be honest, the Green Lantern movie wasn't very good. And I feel like there are some reasons for that. But I don't know. I think I forget, I lose track of where DC is with their movies right now. They were there was like another Green Lantern movie on the slate, and then I know that some there was some reshuffling after the Justice League thing. I am hopeful of a good Green Lantern movie. I don't think Ryan Reynolds will be in it. And I would prefer it to star really any of the other Green Lanterns. Jon Stewart would be a great choice. The character, not the not the comedian. Although Jon Stewart, the comedian, as a Green Lantern would be a lot of fun. Yeah, or yeah, like my favorite Kyle would be fun. Simon Baz or Jessica Cruz, I think would give a new angle, or Joe Mullane, and you could get Janelle Monáe to play her. I would 100% be there for that movie. But yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds seems much happier doing Deadpool.
I've heard it's a lot more aligned with his personality, which I find very interesting. And
Yeah.
I think it was at the end of the second movie that he also made it pretty clear that he wasn't thrilled about Green Lantern.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're coming up to time. So thank you so much, Shaun, for sharing your time and talent with us and our audience today. To our audience, we hope that you took copious notes. I know that the biggest things I got out of it were, don't try to compare your skills with others based on their because they may have other access or time. And there's nothing that will stop you quicker or more than comparing yourself to others. Take time to do the thing and give yourself permission to make things that are not good. We'd like to thank our audience for joining us today. Please take a moment to respond to the survey that you will receive in about 24 hours. And it'll talk about what you learned today. And for future reference, all of the SummerWorks career sneak peek videos will be housed on the SummerWorks YouTube webpage. We wish you all of the best in your future career endeavors. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks so much.